All right, welcome back to Take What You Can. This is the Monday edition. This episode will be coming out December 16th. We're going to talk about NFL Week 15. We're going to break it down in the first half of the games. If you want to hear more from me and you enjoy any of my content, please follow me on X. That's TWYCF on X. Take What You Can Football on X. I try to live tweet during most games. It's a lot of fun. We joke around, just have observations about the season, things like that. So, yeah, let's hop into it. We're going to start kind of backwards to start here. So, Sunday Night Football, Packers versus Eagles. That's where we are going to start. Sorry about that. Got distracted by my loving wife, while I'm recording. All right, so yeah, we're gonna start with Seahawks versus Packers here. To me, if you watched last episode, this game was pretty predictable. When we broke it down, we saw the Seahawks really struggled against against the run. Their run defense was really subpar, if not terrible. And we can see that the Packers are a running team at their core. Josh Jacobs, I don't think did great statistically, but he definitely showed out and made some really clutch runs. 29 carries, 94 yards, 3.6 yards a carry. Definitely ain't great. Had a touchdown, had 4 catches, 42 yards. That helps. We knew this ahead of time. Josh Jacobs consistently made plays over and over again. Really, even starting the game, he's just breaking tackles, really making good moves. He's really the heart of what the Packers do. I mean, he started with a touchdown to begin the game. Really set the tone for what the Packers were trying to do. And really, they just continued. What you have to understand about the Kyle Shanahan tree, a.k.a. Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Zach Taylor, maybe a little less on Zach Taylor, but what they really try to do is work off of the play action pass in their passing game. So I think when you see what the Packers are looking for, Josh Jacobs fits that really well. Even though as a Vikings fan, I love Aaron Jones, he does great, but he's no Josh Jacobs. He's not as close. They're definitely different running backs. I think Josh Jacobs just sets the tone for what the Packers want to do. I mean, even on 1st and 10 in the first quarter, he takes a check down pass, totally just takes out number 48, I think it was, on the Seahawks. Just totally sticks him. Again, setting that tone. But the Packers were controlling most of this game. Nothing really surprising. Just breaking down some stats. Jordan Love did exactly what he needed to do. 20 of 27, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, yeah, Josh Jacobs setting that tone. I've got the highlights here. He's just breaking run after run. He's not as much of a home run hitter. He's not going to get those 80-yard touchdowns, at least very often. But from like 3 to say 20 yards, he's a killer. Christian Watson had a few nice catches in this game. Definitely is starting. Starting. But when he's healthy, Christian Watson is a very talented wide receiver, as we know. But again, health is a concern. He's a very slim player as well. Only time will tell if he can really bounce back as a player. In terms of Seahawks, Geno Smith, 15 to 19, 149 yards and an interception. Zach Charbonnet, 8 carries, 54 yards, 6.8 yards a carry and a touchdown. That does not surprise me. They played from behind all game. Only 8 carries for Zach Charbonnet. That totally makes sense. Even though Charbonnet's been playing really well, they probably weren't able to dominate in the run game the way they have been or wanted to lately. So yeah, that's the story on that. Jackson Smith and Jigba, He's feasting nowadays. 10 catches, 83 yards. Pretty typical for him. Not surprising there. Yeah, again, I've got the highlights up here. We're in the second quarter. Geno Smith, again, the Seahawks offensive line tends to struggle, but despite that, Geno Smith in the pass game have been very good. I believe it's Jason Myers, their kicker. We got a field goal. Drills it down the middle, 14-3. Not really a surprising score. Again, like I said, play action pass for Jordan Love. Even on the checkdowns, I mean, Tucker Kraft, they do a good job. Jordan's really starting to understand taking the check down a little more. And really what the story of this game became was Geno Smith. And we talked a lot about him at another podcast, but he left the game with a knee injury. Doesn't seem like there's any... Okay, I'm looking at the update here. So Mike McDonald, their head coach, says he looks okay his knee looks okay structurally. His coach isn't sure if he's going to miss time, but it was for sure a knee injury here. So let's see if we can find the actual replay of Geno Smith's knee injury here. Just going to pull it up on X, see if I can find it. Again, if you don't follow me, TWYCF on X. Definitely a good time. Got people telling me to talk to walls. Let's see here. Come on. Oh, I just put Geno Smith. Geno Smith injury. Let's see here. Come on now. Give me something. Okay, here we go. Okay, he kind of ran into him. I see. Stumbled to him, tried to get him. Kind of just jammed his knee. Yeah, that's just an awkward play. Yeah. Really unfortunate for Geno Smith. I mean, the dude's, how old is he now? Geno Smith is... How old is Geno Smith? 34 years old. I think he's on that second year of his contract. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Seahawks do. Again, I really don't think they're going to make the playoffs. We've talked about this before. They had a hard remaining schedule. I don't think, especially if Geno Smith isn't playing, even if he is, I don't think they have a good chance to beat the Rams. It may be close, but I think the Rams are going to come out on top. Really, the main chance they had of making the playoffs was beating the Packers and having that tiebreaker against them. And because they didn't, it's going to be, I mean, they're really going to have to win out. On top of that, they do have to beat the Rams, and it's probably going to be for the division. Last time we talked about their schedule, the remaining schedule is Minnesota, Chicago, and then Los Angeles Rams. So not necessarily easy. I don't know if I love their chances of beating the Vikings. So already with that, you're going to be a game behind Los Angeles if they are able to win out. And Los Angeles, I believe their schedule is easier. They have Jets, Cardinals, Seahawks. Okay. Yeah, I would definitely say an easier schedule. But yeah, let's see here. Jordan Love making insane plays. Flag on the play. 2 minutes left. Just heaves it from his own end zone. Gets it to Tucker Kraft somehow. Romeo Doubs had a good game. But again, yeah, that's really all I have to say on the Seahawks-Packers game. You know, the Packers are definitely not a team to bat an eye at. I really think they're dangerous. But I do think they're kind of like a year or two away from being that top-end contender. And, I mean, if you're the Lions or the Vikings, you probably don't want to see them in the playoffs because they know you so well. But also at the same time, they are a young team, which makes them scary for the future. But I don't know how much I feel about them being scary right now, if that makes sense. But next, what we're going to do is we're going to hop into the Chiefs-Browns game. That game was also interesting. So I picked the Browns. I thought Jameis was going to Jameis it up. I thought he was going to really make a difference. And I wasn't wrong. you know, 3 interceptions definitely makes a difference. 16 for 25, 146, and 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Definitely makes a difference. Jerome Ford had a great game. Jerry Jeudy even had a great game. I had a poll on X just asking, like, do you think Jerry Jeudy's a good wide receiver? And I believe most people said yes. So that, I mean, I know he's been playing really well, but it is a bit surprising, honestly. Because before this, he was basically seen as, the most average kind of guy. So, yeah, 3 out of 4 people said yes. I know that's not a big sample size, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at with Jerry Jeudy. Patrick Mahomes, 19 of 38. Yikes. Almost 20 incompletions, 159 and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, 13 carries, 45 yards. Xavier Worthy, 6 receptions, 46 yards. 21-7 was the score. The Chiefs evade a 1-score game. They evade it, which is good. I mean, it's definitely good for a team like the Chiefs to get out of that. As a Vikings fan, I absolutely know what that's like. You really feel inconsistent in terms of, maybe not inconsistent, you feel incapable of actually winning a championship if you are kind of playing with luck as much as you have that whole season. But obviously the Chiefs have players and aspects of their team that the Vikings never had. That season they went 13-4 and lost to the Giants. But the next thing to talk about is Patrick Mahomes is viewed as day-to-day. So let's see if there's more on that. Let's see. Unsure if he'll be able to play in Week 16 after hurting his ankle. Okay, so I actually have a laptop sticker that says, "Lord, give me the strength of Patrick Mahomes' ankle." I got it after they won the Super Bowl against the Eagles, and he was making all those crazy plays on a hurt ankle against the Eagles defense at the time that had the most sacks in one season in NFL history. It was just a crazy moment, and I think if anyone can get through it, it's Mahomes. I believe their backup is Carson Wentz, if I'm correct. That would be interesting. I think he could do a serviceable job. I don't think he'd do that bad. I really don't. Because, I mean, do they really need to, rely on him to really do anything? Because Mahomes, I know Mahomes is Mahomes, but he's not really, making as much of a difference as maybe he would in other years, right? So, I don't know. I think Carson Wentz would be fine. But yeah, Jameis is always going to give his guys a chance, no matter what. He's always going to give them a chance. I'm literally watching 1st and 10, heaves it to Elijah Moore in double coverage into the end zone, gets picked off. They're only down 7. There's literally no reason to take that chance except, hey, I'm going to give my guy a chance. And you got to appreciate that about Jameis, is the dude's got faith and confidence that is unmatched. He's always going to try to get his guys the ball. And he's always going to try to make plays. But, their offensive line is struggling. Let's see what else here. Team stats. 3rd down efficiency. Yeah, the Browns were 4 of 12. Allowed 5 sacks. See, even the Chiefs didn't do well. 7 of 18 on 3rd down. But 0 sacks allowed. That's a huge thing. Definitely huge. There was 4 interceptions thrown. Huh. Oh, they put Dorian Thompson-Robinson in. Wow, did they pull Jameis? Did he get pulled in this game? Jameis Winston. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Jameis Winston pulled. Or let's try injury. Did he get injured? Oh, wow, he got benched. Oh, Jameis. That's rough. But then Dorian DTR throws an interception too. Yeah, the Chiefs defense is no joke, man. You know? They're absolutely no joke. I mean, they've got Chris Jones, Karlaftis. You know, they got Trent McDuffie, who I loved coming out of the draft. Joshua Williams is playing solid. You know, you got Eric Reed. You got Bolton, Leo Chenal. Is that how you say it? Tranquil. Yeah, you got a solid defense. Always playing like good defense under, what's his name? Oh my gosh, what is his name? Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo. Always playing solid defense. And that's what's interesting about this Chiefs team is that they're playing unlike other years, basically unlike Mahomes has ever played before. He played a little bit this way last year when they won, but this is full on. We are going to rely on running the ball and playing good defense, and you're going to have to pick your spots. And ever since Mahomes has been Mahomes, ever since he kind of came out and just started lighting the league up, anytime any quarterback does that, I always want to see what the flip side is like. If they have a bunch of weapons and they're young and they're lighting things up, okay, well, how are things going to be when you don't have the weapons? You have to rely on a defense. Because if you remember, when Mahomes came into the league, they had an insanely good offense, but their defense struggled a lot. They were getting points scored on them all the time. It was mainly the reason they didn't even make it to the Super Bowl that year Mahomes blew up. But that's what it is, you know? That's what it is. And it's cool to see a player mature like Patrick Mahomes because what is he? Isn't he almost 30 now? If he is, I'm getting old. Yeah, he's 29 years old. It's time flies, man. But yeah, he's 29 years old. He's getting to that point in his career where he's got to learn how to play quarterback at an elite level to continue this on. And that's what Tom Brady did. He just never had that explosive kind of first few years that Mahomes had. And that's what he'll have to do to become great is he's got to find a way to play like Tom Brady. Maybe not right now, fully, but eventually. And I mean, I'm excited to see it. I really am. I'm all for it. So let's hop into the next game. What do we got here? Yeah, Bengals Titans. This game was interesting for a lot of reasons. Bengals versus Titans. There's a lot of clips going around of Joe Burrow kind of throwing the F-bomb around all in Zach Taylor's face. He was not happy. And someone on X explained it really well. Really, really well. Let's see here. Where is it? Let's see here. See if I can find it. Basically what he said is, Zach Taylor is in his face, probably giving him motivational speech. He's not happy because, they had what? Six turnovers and they had to call a timeout on the 1 yard line and they're still only winning by like 2 scores. That's, yeah. I mean, it makes sense for someone like Joe Burrow who really values like high level winning. I mean, that's what you're going to get when you have that kind of quarterback and that kind of team and that talented of a team as a coach, or say you're any kind of leader, right? You're a manager, you're a CEO, you're the president. You want people that can really, honestly, you want people that you would want to work for. They're high level people. They're high character people. They care about doing a good job. But if you're not a person like that yourself, or if you are and you want to expand your ability to win or your ability to achieve, you have to grow yourself, right? So Zach Taylor is, I don't doubt he's a good coach, but it seems like he's losing his locker room. And what I think he really needs to do is just kind of meet his players where they're at and see why they're frustrated and find a way to keep them motivated and help them galvanize and stop pointing the finger. Because really, really the issue is the defense, right? It's got to be. From what I've seen so far, here, I'm going to pull up Pro Football Reference. Because, Ja'Marr Chase is having a historic season. Joe Burrow's having an MVP-like season. You know? So, let's see here. Team stats and rankings. Okay. Points scored 6, ninth in yards. They're they're first in passing, 29th in rushing. Okay, that makes sense. Defense, they're 29th in points allowed, 27th in yards. Yeah, 27th in passing yards allowed, 23rd in rushing yards allowed. Yeah. It's got to be frustrating. It's literally Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, and that's it. And they're that good. They're literally that good, where they are just lighting up the league, and they're still 5-8, and they really have nothing else to support them. But that's what makes it difficult is because, what makes it difficult is because they're almost doing it backwards. I preach all the time that teams should be built from the trenches out, right? And then from there, you have a support system for a quarterback. Then you can start to add high-level wide receivers. I'm not always a big fan of paying wide receivers top money. It depends on the situation. But that's when you add players like that. The problem with the Bengals is they're almost doing it backwards. So now it becomes a question of how would I do it backwards? What would I do? And because, my first thought process of it would be, I'm going to take my time, build through the draft, because they've already tried signing offensive linemen to high contracts, Band-Aids, which they're not bad players, but they're not meshing. They haven't taken the time. They're constantly rotating people because, again, you have to live up to this Super Bowl standard for Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. So if you're not meeting the mark, what's going to happen is you're going to get canned. So for an offensive line, you have to take time for continuity. So what I would say is that I would put Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase in the position of, we're going to have to deal with these young guys and take them under our wing and just understand that they're young and I'm more willing to be patient with that than be patient with vets who are getting paid a lot of money. I would say defense is where you start to put money into things. I think maybe this is just me putting DJ Turner at safety. I think you got one of the best safeties in the league, ball hawk free safeties in the league if you start DJ Turner at safety. That's just me. That's a side note thing. But I think you have to be patient with that, and I think where the money goes is in the defense. And I know they have some money in that defense, but this secondary is rough. Other than Hendrickson, they're not doing great either. BJ Hill's solid. They're just missing so many things, especially in the secondary, and they just need help. They've got some young guys, but it's going to take some time. So, to be honest, I don't fully know what to do. It's a very complex situation. As a coach, there's only so many things you can manage with the roster that you have. So, yeah, if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm concerned because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase aren't going to be patient about this. So, I just don't know. I think they're really just going to have to be patient, or the Bengals are going to have to lose out on these two guys, because that's what happens when you do it backwards. And I don't know, man, because I was kind of the idea of the Bengals taking Penei Sewell instead of Jamar Chase at the time. And I think it's still the crazy thing about it is it's still as much of a debate now as it was then. Because Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow brought them to a Super Bowl, almost won it. Like, they weren't like a play away, but it was close. It was a closer game. And I can't sit here and think that, like, you just had T. Higgins as your wide receiver one, and you drafted, Jermaine Burton, and you had Penei Sewell. I think you might, I don't know, you might be better off in the long run. I could be wrong. That might be a bad take, but maybe, Penei Sewell would have been a great addition. That's an all-pro tackle. You'll take that all day. Definitely will take that all day. But either way, I mean, the Bengals have a lot to clean up. This will definitely be an interesting offseason. I don't know if I'd get I don't know if I'd get rid of Zach Taylor, but it seems like he's losing his locker room. And I don't know if it's fully his fault. I just think Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are going to need to find some patience, and I don't know if Zach Taylor can provide that for them. I think if you get a young offensive line that's talented and a new coach, I think that'll allow Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to be a lot more patient than maybe they would right now when you have the coach you've had for years and you have a lot of veteran offensive linemen who are getting paid like pretty good money, I'd say. So it's definitely not a fun situation in Cincinnati, but we'll see. But next game we've got Redskins versus Saints. That was definitely an interesting game. I think some of my initial takeaways were the fact that Alvin Kamara is just whooping Father Time around like it's nothing. And also that Jaden Daniels is an absolute the dude's a superstar, man. He's an absolute superstar. But let's pull up this game statistically. 20-19. I also saw that, the clock kind of stopped for at 9 seconds for multiple seconds. And the Saints would have never been able to get that playoff to almost tie the game, that touchdown that brought them within one, if that clock didn't stop. And it makes you kind of think okay, refs, what's going on here? I'm definitely not one of those guys that thinks that the NFL is rigged, but things like that makes you second guess things. I think the fact that they added betting into the league is just a mistake. I think that creates, just second guessing amongst fans, and I think anytime you have that, it's a bad thing. And Roger Goodell said that for years. He said that for years about how he thought gambling would ruin the sport. But here we are. Money talks, right? But okay, let's take a look at some of the stats here. Jane Daniels, 25 of 31, 226, 2 touchdowns. He took 8 sacks. That's crazy. Spencer Rattler came in. I don't know why he didn't start initially. Because I think that Jake Haener guy started. I don't know why Spencer Rattler didn't start initially. That seems kind of silly to me. Kamara, 5 carries for 12 yards, but receiving-wise, he had to have done good. 4 catches, 58 yards for a touchdown. Okay. Terry McLaurin had 7 catches, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. That play to McLaurin where he basically took out Robinson, Brian Robinson, was insane. Jane Daniels is just so good at buying time. And at the end of the day, he's just like a playmaker, you know? If he gets a real offensive line and they can run the ball like at an elite level without him, and yeah, they're going to be scary. They're going to be real scary. He's going along the Lamar Jackson trajectory here. Excuse me. But yes, he is going down the Lamar Jackson trajectory. And as any team, you will take that all day. Absolutely, you will take that all day. I think the Saints are such an interesting team. I mean, without Derek Carr, they're really nothing at this point. They're a non-contender. I think he's really what makes them go at this point. Him and Alvin Kamara, at least offensively. Chris Olave is definitely more of a 2 when he's healthy. But he's a really solid 2. I think, yeah, man, Washington is definitely going to be an interesting team. It kind of gives me that idea of like, you know, young teams going to get knocked out in the wild card round. And, you know, they had a great first season. I just think there is a little more substance to them. I think it could be hard to beat them. If you're having an off day, you're going to lose to them. Terry McLaurin's a beast. You know? Because where's the playoff picture at this point? NFL standings or NFL playoff picture. The NFL is usually pretty good at updating this as we go. We like to talk about this from time to time, just get a sense of where we're at. If it's similar games, then, you know, there's not much to talk about than what we've talked about before. Let's see, still loading here. Because Washington, I really didn't think Jayden Daniels would do that good this season, just because of the supporting cast around him. I didn't think he was set up for a good rookie season. I really don't. And that just is a testament to how great he is, you know? He really has outperformed his expectations in every single way. And if you're Washington, you'll take that all day. Absolutely will take that. What I'm just surprised about is, while this loads here, this playoff picture, what I'm surprised about is the fact that they let the Saints back in this game. You know, okay, so right now I'm watching the highlights. We're at about 9 minutes left in the third quarter. Play action. You know, okay, let's see here. On the goal line, they kick a field goal. Okay, 17-0. You know, Saints start driving down the field. Alvin Kamara scores a touchdown. I mean, it's 17-0 with about 6 minutes left in the third quarter. You almost blow this game. And that's the hard thing about this young team is that, you know, there's a real possibility that they're going to find a way to blow this because they're young. You know, they don't know how to win yet. But luckily, they have a good coach. Not a lot of times coaches get second chances. Dan Quinn's a great coach. I would take him as my coach. And I think it's just a matter of time. Like, say the Redskins don't find a way to win or like make a real difference in the playoffs this year. You know, the really good thing is that, you know, you still have a first-year head coach who still wants to like meld this defense together. And that's the beautiful thing. So just kind of a side note there. As it stands now, the Eagles would play the Redskins here. The Eagles are hot. They are red hot right now, and they are the team to beat. Not going to be an easy team to beat, but Washington, I mean, anytime you play a division rival in the playoffs is just, and you're favored, That's scary, man. You cannot underestimate teams that you are playing in the playoffs that are in your division. You just cannot underestimate them at all. Never, never, never a good idea. You don't want to be, Washington stuck Philadelphia, and you are stuck behind Washington, and you're supposed to have this great season and go back to the Super Bowl, and you seem like the favorites again. Yep, you don't want to be stuck in that. Definitely not. But let's keep moving here. Let's talk about more good teams versus bad teams. We've got Ravens versus Giants. And, the Giants, okay, my first initial takeaway was Brian Daboll, again, has to be one of the most emotionally immature people I've ever seen in my entire life. And if he was my coach, I'd be so angry all the time. This man is literally screaming at someone all the time. And I get it. Your team's bad. But you're supposed to be a leader, not a finger pointer. Right? Leaders take responsibility. Clearly, this man, all he does is just yell at other people. And it's a testament to their organization. It shows. It really shows in everything that they do. You got Tommy DeVito out there. Like, really, that's the best we got here? You're 2-12 now. Let's take a look at some of these stats. Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdowns, only had 4 incompletions. Your defense was supposed to be good, Malik Neighbors is the only bright spot of this offense. And even him, he's going to take some time to become like a real legit number 1 wide receiver. I know he's very talented, but he's going to take time. You got Tim Boyle and Tommy DeVito out there. And Tommy DeVito goes 10 for 13 for 68 yards. And if it weren't for the Lamar Jackson fumble at the beginning of the game, you're going to have a lot of... this was just kind of domination the whole time. That was the only time it seemed like, okay, wow, what if they make a play? Tommy DeVito's overthrowing people on 3rd down. Not making key plays in the game. I don't get Brian Daboll's obsession with Tommy DeVito. I really don't get it. It's just kind of it's a comedy show. You might as well just go to the Laugh Factory and watch Brian Daboll talk, because that's really what it is. It's absolutely, it's kind of embarrassing. Again, we're talking about the Giants at the end of the year just being one of the worst teams we've ever seen. Like, the lack of talent. You got all these people going on IR because it's not worth it. You got Dexter Lawrence going on IR. Not worth it to keep him out there. That's basically your best player. You still have talent on your team. But, even at the end of the game, Brian Daboll is making some decisions where, he's really trying to go for it. And I get that you're down and all that, but you can just tell he's coaching for his job, because this team is not showing life at all. And why would they? Why would they? You traded the starting quarterback, you benched him, made him play scout team safety. Just the level of disrespect. Because what do you think they think? Or, what do you think the players think when they see that? What do you think they think? They think if they're willing to do this to him, to the guy they paid $40 million a year, what are they willing to do to me? Do I want to play for this organization? We already know it looks like Malik Neighbors doesn't want to play for this organization. We can tell that. Saquon wanted to make it work. He wanted a great career with one team. He wanted to be a historic player. And look what they did to him. Odell Beckham. Look what they did to him. They keep trying to scapegoat every single time. And you can only scapegoat for so long. Where you're going to hit the reset button and then act like it's not your fault again? Is this what we're going to keep doing? And then don't get me started with the draft picks. Andrew Thomas was a good pick. I also heard that he was working with a different personal coach on his technique, and he kind of messed him up, and then Andrew Thomas kind of had to rework things again. But Kayvon Thibodeau, bad pick. Knew it was a bad pick when it happened. Not a bad player, but bad pick that high. And if Kayvon Thibodeau was so great, why would they have traded for Brian Burns? I mean, I know it was a great deal, but if Kayvon Thibodeau is so great, you probably don't feel like it's very necessary to like get another pass rusher, right? Because if you already have one of the best defensive tackles in the league, even one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles or pass rushers in the league, you wouldn't feel the need to trade for another pass rusher if you already have another elite pass rusher. You already know that he's not one. And then, not to mention, you have a blitz-heavy defensive coach where most of his talent is on the defensive line. Most of his, most of your resources are on the defensive line, which sounds like it would make sense, but when you think about it, it doesn't, because if you're really relying on guys to, hit gaps, blitz in different areas, you don't need to rely on their talent as much. So why are all your resources going into the defensive line if you're a blitzing team? Why do you think Brian Flores and the Vikings didn't pay Danielle Hunter $20 million a year? Why do you think that is? Why do you think they signed Andrew Van Ginkel and Grenard? Why do you think that? I know they signed him for a decent amount of money, but it's not top level money, right? So, because it's not what's necessary. Why do you think the Patriots didn't pay Chandler Jones the money that he wanted when he went to the Cardinals back in the day? Because they were a blitz-heavy team. They were gap-centered. They focused on having a rotation of guys. When Wink Martindale was with the Ravens, they didn't really pay pass rushers a ton of money. From my recollection, most of their resources went to the secondary because they're like, okay, well, we're going to blitz people. We're going to have one-on-one coverage or small numbers in the secondary as opposed to, the wide receivers on the offense. So we have to have really talented guys back there. That makes sense. I don't always agree with a blitz-heavy thing or scheme. I would like to think of it more as like, I guess my preference would be maybe more of like what the 49ers would do. You have a really talented defensive line and you run cover 3 and you cover the zones and you just let your defensive linemen rush the passer and they can make it 4v5 because they're that talented. It's almost the exact flip side of it. So you're trying to run like a 49ers Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans scheme with a blitzing type, you're trying to run that as like the talent on your team. You're trying to use that as your talent, but you're running a scheme that's blitzing. So it doesn't really make sense. And that's why you get totally bombarded by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens 35-14. But let's keep moving here. Cowboys versus Panthers. Definitely an interesting game. I totally thought the Panthers were going to win this one. I'm not going to lie. I really wanted to believe in the Panthers. I really, really did. But they couldn't find a way. In fact, they got beat pretty handedly, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I can find this game. 30-14 when they were 2-point favorites for the first time in like 30-something games, 32 games. Very sad for Carolina. Bryce Young had that insane spin move on Micah Parsons. And then as he's going down to the ground, like 5 yards past him just spin moving Micah Parsons, he fumbles the ball. And I was like, if that ain't Bryce Young's career, I don't know what is. Like, just very talented kid in certain ways, but then just can't find a way to make it work. There's physical limitations. There's, the team is limited. And, the Cowboys did what the Cowboys do. They beat up on bad teams. It doesn't matter if Dak was playing or not. They would have beat up on this team. They probably would have scored more like 40-something points if they had Dak. But they didn't. So, Bryce Young, I think, okay, so his statistics were 19-28, 219 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 6 times. Not surprising. I think a lot of times he was trying to do too much. Cooper Rush, he was 18-29, 214, 3 touchdowns. You'll take it. Definitely, you got CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Brooks, Jalen Tolbert, all involved here. But even from the get-go, I mean, it just looked like the Cowboys were the better team overall. CeeDee Lamb had a good game. You could tell he was making a difference in specific parts of the game, making plays that mattered to keep the drive moving in a productive way. I mean, 2 not great teams. I really would have loved to sit here and talk about, how great, Bryce Young was, and, they were able to crank out the win and this and that. But, I really don't have as much to say about that. Let's see here. Oh, Schoonmaker with a good play. I really think they should start him over. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that was Ferguson. But I really do think they should start Schoonmaker over Ferguson. I think he's a better player. I think he does better for them. I know they were behind a lot, but they got to find a way to get Chuba Hubbard more involved in this game. That's really what helps them out. Bryce Young had that 60-something yard touchdown. Wide receiver is wide open. He made the right play. But at the end of the first half. But again, it's, this is going to take some time. If they really want Bryce Young to actually be their quarterback, they're going to have a lot around him. Like a lot. And they got to have a good defense too, because even today they got maybe not dominated in time of possession. The Cowboys were plus 7 minutes, but the Cowboys had 20 more plays. Even Cowboys had 14 penalties and they still won by 2 possessions. This isn't just Bryce's fault. The problem is Bryce is really only going to take you as far as the talent on your team. So if the talent on your team ain't great, Bryce is only taking you so far. He can make a few plays here and there, but do I think Bryce Young could win you a Super Bowl? Maybe on certain teams, but they'd have to be like elite level rosters. Even I'm watching Bryce, he fumbles it. He's just a small dude. And there's nothing wrong with that, but, you're playing NFL football. A dude just gets thrown to the ground and just drops the ball. You got to be able to absorb hits like that and just hold on to that ball. Because at the end of the day, if you're turning it over, doesn't matter how talented you are. We've seen plenty of guys more talented than Bryce Young who turn the ball over, and they don't last as starters very long. I mean, even Jameis Winston. You could argue Jameis Winston's more talented than Bryce Young. And he turns the ball over all the time. And, yeah, he just got benched today for DTR. So, you never know. You really never know. And Bryce Young, there's only going to be so many guys that believe in him. And if you're turning the ball over, it ain't going to last long. But, yeah, that's all I really have to say about that game. The final game of this podcast, again, we'll touch base on the other Sunday games on next episode, and then we'll talk about the Monday night games on Wednesday's episode. But don't forget, stay tuned. We'll cover Dolphins, Texans, Colts, Broncos, Bills, Lions, Steelers, Eagles, Patriots, Cardinals, and Bucks, Chargers. We'll cover those all on the next episode of Take What You Can. On the Tuesday edition. It'll be on December 17th. Again, we do this every weekday, Monday through Friday, hour podcast per day. Also, I live tweet TWYCF on X, Take What You Can Football on X. I live tweet as much as I can. But yeah, let's hop into this game here. Okay, Jets, Jags. First impressions is that I wish the Jaguars would go back to these uniforms. I know you could say it's maybe fitting that they're wearing these when they're this bad. Match the timing with the jersey. But again, they are way better. I think of David Garrard. I think of Byron Leftwich, Maurice Jones-Drew. They weren't great either, but it just reminds me of that time, and I really love those jerseys. I think they should keep them. But this was a closer game than, maybe not closer game as expected, but a high-scoring game. Mac Jones played decent, 31 of 46, 294, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers, 289, 3 touchdowns. Davante Adams just went off in the second half. And I think, Aaron is just comfortable with his guys that he's been playing with for a really long time. And that's what he's going to do, I think I kind of go back and forth on Aaron Rodgers because it's like, okay, well, clearly you and Davante are just operating at a different level than other people. But then again, if you can't operate at a basic level other than that, then are you really just like operating on a high level, or are you just like that in tune with each other? You know what I mean? Like, because when they were in Green Bay, they were operating at a high level. But if you can't do that other places consistently, like, or say you can't do that with other wide receivers, like you can't just do the basics, then are you really that good? I'm not doubting Aaron Rodgers' Hall of Fame ability, but it's like, I'm just pointing out and kind of throwing out the question of like, well, what does that mean then? Like why can you operate at a high level like that, but you can't really do the basics other places because you don't have that person? That it's hard to understand. And Garrett Wilson is not a number one wide receiver. He's just not. Davante Adams is a number one wide receiver. He's definitely not nearly as talented as he used to be. But Garrett Wilson, coming out of the league, or coming out in the draft, was not a polished wide receiver. He was a great athlete with great abilities, and I know he won like Offensive Rookie of the Year, but he still struggles in like high concept receiver, like route running and angles, and just like, I think catching too to a certain degree. Not hating on the guy, but he's incredibly talented physically, and I think a lot of times if you just get the ball in people's hands, they're going to make plays. And Garrett has definitely gotten better, but I still don't think he's a number one wide receiver. But, again, this play just popped up. Aaron Rodgers is stiff-arming people. If you are getting stiff-armed by a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, like, I know I'm not one to talk, but you got to hit the weight room, bro. Like, holy cow. You're in the NFL. You're getting stiff-armed by Aaron Rodgers here for the first down. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where Aaron Rodgers goes, because he's definitely not going to the Vikings. I know everyone wants that, but he's definitely not. And the next question is, does Davante go with him? Are they just a package deal wherever they go? Also, I want to shout out Brian Thomas Jr. He was my wide receiver 2 coming out of this draft. Dude's going to be an all-pro. Just stay ready for it. But let's sit here and think for a second. What are the teams Aaron Rodgers is going to go to? Bills, no. Dolphins, no. I mean, maybe if Tua goes or he gets traded for some reason. Patriots, no. Redskins, no. Cowboys, no. Eagles, no. Giants, no. Bengals, no. Browns, maybe. Because, again, this is probably going to have to be a contending team that really has a chance to win a Super Bowl if Aaron Rodgers can play his best football. So, Browns, probably not. Ravens, no. Steelers, maybe. That's probably a stronger possibility. Bears, no. Lions, no. Packers, definitely not. Vikings, I mean, maybe, but probably not. Colts, no. Jags, no. Texans, no. Titans, no. Bucks, no. Falcons, no. Panthers, no. Saints, no. Broncos, no. Chargers, Chiefs, Raiders, all no. 49ers, maybe. If Brock Purdy doesn't come back for some reason. Cardinals, no. Rams, no. Seahawks, maybe. So really, you've got 3 maybe. Okay, I guess they're all maybes, but Seahawks, 49ers, Vikings, and Steelers. Seahawks, 49ers, Vikings, and Steelers. Those are the main people. Okay, and then who would need Devontae? So Seattle, maybe. 49ers, probably not. But Aaron would probably be okay if he didn't come. Vikings, definitely not. Steelers, probably. You know, if I was a betting man, I'd probably guess that, if it would have to be if Russell Wilson totally drops the ball in the playoffs or something. I could definitely see, let's see here. Hold up. Over the cap. Well, the question is is Aaron Rodgers going to be willing to take no money? Because he's not going to be able to get a lot of money out of anybody, really. At least I don't think. I would hope. Okay, so 2025, they're going to have $53 million in cap space. Okay. Add external player. Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Transact. Can you go down to... Okay, it's really nothing. Okay, cool. We'll take it. Davante Adams. Okay, we'll take it. Okay, yeah, it really... I mean, Davante brings you down to $8 million. But I'm sure there's some stuff you could do. Yeah, my bet is going to be Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams to the Steelers, if any team. If they're going to go together to any team, I would guess that it would be the Steelers. Then you have Davante Adams and George Pickens. You have Aaron Rodgers, basically just plug and play with everything that they have, and you try again. The Steelers have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I still don't doubt them, even though they lost to the Eagles. They still have a chance. Well, actually, it depends if TJ Watt actually is hurt or not long term. Let's see. I'm kind of curious. Wait and see mode after ankle injury. Okay, well, it's a good thing it's at least an ankle. If he broke it, that's obviously not great. Steelers get positive update on TJ Watt. Ankle. Promising update. Okay, not bad. Okay. Yeah, as long as they got TJ Watt, they got a chance to win the Super Bowl. I really love the Steelers. But again, yeah, plug and play, Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams. You'd probably feel a lot better about him with those two than you do now, right? And I love the Steelers, but if they had Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, heck yeah. If I'm the Steelers and I'm in the divisional round or even the AFC, maybe not AFC Championship, because then you'd probably bring Russell Wilson back. But would the Jets want to trade him to an AFC team? I don't know either of them, but I don't know. Maybe if it's the right package, maybe you just say, hey, we'll give you next 2 years, first round picks for Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Maybe they'd take them. And they're we'll take all the cap issues that come with them and their contracts and call it good. If I'm the Jets, I might take that. I don't know. But we'll talk about that a lot more in the offseason. Again, this is Take What You Can. Again, we'll talk more about the rest of the Sunday games tomorrow. Thank you to anyone who listens. I really appreciate it. I want to end, just do not forget, and please put your faith in Jesus if you haven't yet. Ultimately, it is your choice, but just know he died for your sins. He loves you. He wants to give you eternal life and wants to have a relationship with you. I know he's changed my life in more ways than one. I'm eternally grateful to him. Pray to him every day. I have a great relationship with him. And yeah, I really just appreciate anyone listening. But take care and have a great rest of your day.